Welcome in, everybody, to another live edition of the Messi and Co. Postgame Shows. Inter Miami just taking on Nashville LC at DraftKings Stadium, a 0-0 draw. Quite a disappointing match from all fronts from Inter Miami. Weren't able to break down Nashville. Nashville came out with a great game plan, but it's something that we're all going to discuss and get into. And I think that I was validated in my rant as we had a couple weeks ago. We can talk about that, fellas. But before we do that, let's get into one of our amazing podcast sponsors, and we'll get the show started.
If you are ready to transform your backyard into a haven of relaxation and luxury, look no further than our amazing podcast sponsor, L'Acqua Azzurra Pool Services. With over 20 years of industry experience, L'Acqua Azzurra is a name you can trust when it comes to services, equipment repairs, and restoration for all things pools. If you're looking in the South Florida area for your pool to be serviced on a month-to-month basis, L'Acqua Azzurra boasts an impressive 5-star rating on Google reviews, and it's a testament to their dedication to customer satisfaction and top-notch service. Also, if you mention Messi & Co., you will get your first month of pool service absolutely free. So don't wait. For pool service, patio renovation, or more, call them now at 954-793-7206 and get a free quote for any project. Thanks, L'Acqua Azzurra.
All right, so game finishes 0-0. Inter Miami's first MLS home game since returning to MLS action. They finally get one in the books, and it didn't go to plan. We've been saying on the pod and on these post-game shows that the home games are ones that had to be won, and now they make it a little bit harder for themselves to try and reach the playoffs. This performance was lackadaisical from an offensive front, in my opinion, and I thought that they could have done a lot more to break down Nashville. I thought that's what they tried to do with the 4-3-3 formation, reverting from a back five that we saw over the last two matches. But Gian, I'll ask you first. What are your initial reactions to what you saw tonight? I mean, Messi was getting shut down right in and around the area, especially centrally. They forced him out wide and blocked him down through the middle, and that makes sense considering what you saw in the Leagues Cup final and the way he scored. But in terms of the overall team performance and the tactics, is there anything that really stuck out to you in this performance?
I think we saw two teams that were at like 75% is what it seems like to me. It stinks because when you have Nashville that doesn't, I mean, they weren't pressing nearly as much as they pressed in the final against us. They weren't as aggressive. They were playing without Mukhtar to start off with. So I thought, right when I saw that, I was like, okay, great. Well, we'll be able to take advantage of this, put more pressure on them. They're allowing us to play the ball, to touch out of the back. Those are things that, again, they were not allowing us to do in the previous game. So they allowed us to play our game. The only thing is that we were also not playing at 100%. It seemed like, you said, like lackadaisical. It seemed that we were tired. It seemed that we were content in just touching the ball, and really we weren't able to get a lot of, I think, dangerous opportunities. So I think it has to do with us as a team, but also I will give props to Nashville. They did a really good job defensively, 100%. Their lines were very compact. They were very focused on shutting down any pass, any of that Boosie to Messi pass, and those sorts of passes that have generated plays for us in the past. They were very focused on stopping that. One of the things that I noticed, and I tweeted this, and I was hoping that Tata would figure this out. They were very much, Nashville was very much focused on defending the left wing and disrupting that Alba and Taylor game that we usually have a lot of success with on that left wing. There was nothing going on there. It was really tough to attack on that side, yet we kept trying and nothing happened. Meanwhile, on the right wing, we had Yedlin a lot of times open, and we never tried. I mean, not to say never, but seldom did we try to attack on that right wing, and we kept forcing something that had proven very successful to us up to that point. And I think that Nashville understood that, studied us, and was making sure that they took away that from our game plan. So I just wish Tata would have kind of figure that out and maybe tried a few different things. But overall, it was just a very tough game. We expected it to be a really tough game from the start. I never thought this was going to be 3-4 goals for Miami side. Ashley on the pregame podcast said she thought it might be a 2-0. I thought it might be a 2-1. So we thought it was going to be tight. I never thought it was going to be a 0-0 at all. But look, this is one thing I will say, because I know that you mentioned this in the past and you got a lot of heat for it. You were not happy with Inter Miami in the sense of thinking, they weren't, I guess, as overpowering and convincing as many people said they were. And I knew that you had made it a point to say, you know what, I don't think they are as convincing. But I'll say this kind of leans towards what you said. But I will say this, and we have to take everything with a grain of salt, because we've seen, even when Messi was in Barca, we've seen these types of games where Barca, a fully stacked team, much better than Inter Miami, playing against people like Getafe or playing against Celta de Vigo, like these little teams where they maybe weren't at the top of their game. So I guess we'll discuss this now. How much of it was it that they're tired? How much was it that they just didn't play right? And how much was it that, this is just one of those games? It just happens to every team.
I think that's a part of it, right? I think that's definitely in consideration, but I also think that, looking back at the Leagues Cup final and what Nashville's game plan was then, it wasn't very different than it was tonight. And I thought that Nashville were actually successful in the Leagues Cup final, and I thought they were successful tonight in what they wanted to do and tried to achieve. I want to point out a couple things. One, Nashville played with one DP on the roster tonight, and he only played 45 minutes. No Walker Zimmerman, no Sam Surge, who were key players in the Leagues Cup final. Hani Mukhtar came on the 45th and definitely changed the game and opened up a little bit. Not only that, but part of that rant that I got a lot of heat for had to do with the fact that other MLS teams can look at these Nashville performances and the Cincinnati performance that they had for quite some time, I believe in the middle 70 minutes of the match before everything went crazy in the semifinal. And Miami are struggling to beat a low block. That is the simple truth, is that Miami cannot break down a low block, whether it's centrally or from the wings. There weren't any successful crosses in this match. I said that in the last one too. Jordi Alba was not able to connect with anybody inside the box. A lot of that had to do with Joseph Martinez as well. I thought he was a complete non-factor. Sorry, Alejandro. It might be time for that Campana Martinez episode really, really shortly. But there's so much for other MLS teams to look at now and say, well, Miami aren't this, unstoppable side. They were shut out tonight. Messi didn't score a goal or get on the assist sheet either. So that is where my biggest concern is entering this part of the season, where we know dropping points are, points are at a premium because they have to jump teams. Now, granted, I'll get into this in a little bit, and I don't want to do it too much now, but results went their way tonight, so that helps. But they need to win games at home, because now they go into a stretch where they're going to go play LAFC on the road. They've got, obviously the time difference as well as the travel distance. And then when they come back, you have players going on international duty. And the next game after the third is the 9th against Sporting Kansas City, where you'll virtually have a non-competitive roster to go ahead and play against Sporting Kansas City at home. So this game for me feels like 2 points dropped, whether they were 75%, 50%, 10% in terms of energy. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. You knew what Nashville was going to do, and you didn't do enough to combat that. That's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. Alejandro?
Yeah, let me jump right here. What's up, guys? How you doing? Here's the thing about this type of results in a league match. You care more about it, but this is like the 5th tie that Inter Miami has had since Messi got here. So it's not a new thing. I read one of the comments here. We just drew with this same team in the final. We just happened to go to penalty kicks and we won it that way. But this is not the first time. We tied with Cincinnati. We tied with Dallas. It's been like we've discussed this before. It hasn't been like Inter Miami's just blowing every team they face and they're winning easy games every time. So this is the first time that it actually hurts, because you're dropping points, and that's why you guys have those faces right now. You're mad, you're sad, you're wanting to throw stuff at people. But at the end of the day, it was a bad day. It was a bad day even for Messi, and even Messi have these days, and we have to get used to he's not gonna be as on the top of his performance every time, and it's just soccer and it's just sports, and that's how it is. But this is the first time they tie, and we're actually mad about it because they've been tying games, coming back and tying, and then forcing to penalty kicks, and then forcing extra time. But other than that, this is the first time that we're actually kind of mad because they tied the game. So, I mean, it's a long run. We knew since we signed Messi that it was a long shot to actually get into the playoffs. Of course, we want to win all the games at home. That's one of the main points to try to get back into the positions that are going to be in the playoffs. But I mean, you have to see it as a marathon. I know. I mean, they could have lost it. I mean, they had a handball at the end of the game. They were lucky that there was actually an offside before that, and they had another goal in offside. They had a ball hitting the post. I mean, it could have been even worse. It could have been a loss, and it would have been fine because both teams, I think, deserve to win it or to lose it. And even in a bad day, and this is where you're going to get used to Messi too, even in a bad day, Messi almost won it in the last play of the game. When we all thought that he was going to cross it, he went to his right a couple of times, and he almost won it that way. So, I mean, it wasn't pretty. It was one of those games that we should have won, but it is what it is, I guess. So
and Nashville
I'm going to leave you with that.
No, Nashville had more dangerous
Yeah,
opportunities, in my opinion, than we did. Like there were, man, we came close to losing that even earlier on in the second half.
Yeah, and I remember in the first half, I don't know if you guys remember this, because of course we remember the second half more because it's a recency basis thing. But in the first half, how many balls Taylor had like close to the box? I remember one great pass by Messi. He just couldn't handle the ball and just shoot it right, or he shot another one way over the goal. So I mean, we had opportunities to actually be winning this game early and not have to be dealing with tire legs, the heat, the rain, whatever it was, everything together. So it is what it is.
Well, to that point, Alejandro,
yeah,
it is 1 point, but it's for me, it's still 2 points dropped. But I will say this:
of course.
in the first half, Messi did as much as he could to play passes, like you said, the one to Taylor, and then there was one to Jordi Alba that he could have squared the ball to Diego Gomez, but he didn't, and ended up losing it. Those were the two opportunities for me that they needed to capitalize on, and they didn't. And if I go back to the first half statistics, I know they had 70% possession, if I'm not mistaken. And with that 72% possession,
the game was weird because Inter Miami was just passing the ball around, and Nashville was like, "Okay, pass it around,
right
here."
And that's the thing. Inter Miami took 3 shots in the first half with 72% possession. One of them got blocked, and the other 2 went off target. No shots on target for Inter Miami in the first half with 72% possession, over 300 passes, I believe, in that first half as well. So they weren't getting the ball into those dangerous areas as much as they needed to, and when they did, they weren't effective with it. And that's what Nashville was wanting to do. They make you take your opportunities, and when you don't do that, it stays 0-0 for as long as they possibly want. Gary Smith had Hani Mukhtar at his disposal in the second half. It opened up a little bit. Tired legs on both sides, and this is the exact result that you were expecting after the 45th minute. I didn't see any hope for Miami to score other than Messi free kicks. That was literally the only hope for me. And how many times did I pull out my camera tonight to record one? I couldn't tell you, but they was there. I was ready.
And even those didn't fall. So it was one of those days.
Right.
The ball was not going to go in today.
No, and Nashville was literally, like you said, giving them the ball and almost making Miami fall asleep by themselves with so many lateral passes, not being able to really, get into any attacking opportunities. And then they'd have Mukhtar or they'd have Fafa right on our defensive line with their 2 center backs that were basically by themselves. And then a long ball over us created an easy opportunity. Like we were touching without nothing much coming to fruition. And then them with 2 or 3 passes were creating really dangerous opportunities for them. So we played into their game plan just beautifully.
And if you're another MLS team, why are you not looking at this and saying, yeah, this is what I can do? If you're looking at a team like Sporting Kansas City or LAFC for that matter, who have strong defensive midfielders and defenders, Why are you not looking at Nashville and saying, yeah, I can emulate that? How do we shut down Messi centrally? How do we make them force the ball out wide? It will come down to a positional switch at striker, because if Campana's there, we've seen the threat. And I think, Gian, you will absolutely agree with me. We've seen the threat of Campana inside the box. He gives something that Joseph doesn't in terms of the aerial threat and his positioning in the box for wide crosses to come in. Joseph's more of that central kind of guy that has to play in an area. He can play in tight spaces. He can lay off the ball, but it's got to be in and around that half circle on top of the 18. Other than that, he's almost not effective. He went for that one bicycle kick that was absolutely ridiculous if he would have scored it. But other than that, he had almost no touches inside of the 18 because they couldn't find him. They were being shut down. And I think that that's where the switch has to come. And if every other MLS team that comes to either Driving Stadium or even does the same exact tactic at home goes out and deploys this, Tata has to make a switch. Whether it's Facundo Farias on the wing for Robert Taylor, who I thought needed a little bit more of an extra step tonight, and his touches were a little bit off. If it's, again, Campana over Martinez, if it's even putting Benja on the field instead of Diego Gomez, who I really thought wasn't a factor going forward, there are switches that have to be made. And I think that right now, in every single game going forward, there are no games that they can drop anymore. That's it. You got to draw at home. Every other game is going to matter, especially against LAFC, because it's going to be the last game that you have until international break, where you might have 6 to 8 players missing not only the Sporting Kansas City game, but you have to come back and give me a quick turnaround to play in Atlanta on the 15th or the 16th, whenever it is. This is one on Sunday that is almost a must win, in my opinion, and it's going to be really, really tough. But again, all kudos to Nashville and to Gary Smith. I think he had an absolutely perfect plan tonight. It's exactly what he wanted to do in the Leagues Cup final. You can see the similarities in both games. It's just that you had Messi magic in the first half in that one, and then of course you had the scrappy goal from Nashville to make it even. Let's talk about these results here.
I think that if you would have won, or we would have won today, Inter Miami, I think that you go into LAFC a bit more calm,
relaxed. Yes,
a bit more relaxed. But the bad part now is, to your point, you dropped 2 points. You got LAFC that in and of itself, if you're at full strength and you're feeling great, it's still a very tough game. And then you don't even know who's going to be available for Kansas. So, I mean, right now, I think from a Tata Martino perspective, you don't have time to experiment right now. You got to go in with what works, because again, right now there's not much room for tinkering and for mistakes, especially with today's results. So, I mean, Joseph clearly, I think we need a swap there. Gomez, I keep pulling for the kid. I think he's got potential. He just still doesn't look ready, in my opinion. I think you go with Crema. So other than there being an injury or some player telling you, hey, I need the rest, my legs aren't they're not under me, at least put me in the second half. If that's not the case, I think you need to go with what has proven to work.
Definitely agree. So we've got the table pulled up here, and as you can see, Miami sitting in 14th on 22 points, which is 24 games played, the least out of any team in the Eastern Conference, which plays into their hands and into their playoff hopes. Right above them, New York City FC tonight, who actually won. However, Miami have 3 games in hand and a direct game against them, so the 7-point difference can easily be made up. With New York Red Bulls lost tonight. Actually, a 1-0 loss to New England Revolution. So that helps Miami a ton. With New England sitting in second place, there's probably no chance Miami catch them. Charlotte FC drew with Orlando 1-1, I believe, after Charlotte went up 1-0 off of a penalty. Orlando equalized late on and made that 1-1. So a draw there. Charlotte doesn't get the 3 points. Miami have 2 more games against Charlotte to play. One at home, one away. Sitting right now 1 point back, apologies, 8 points back on the table, but 1 game in hand, and they still have those 2 direct games. And the biggest one, I think, right now is Chicago losing to Vancouver. I think that direct game on October 4th is one that they're going to circle because it's obviously a game away from home. And I really think that the games at home should be won, as we said tonight, and Nashville really did well. But Miami going away from home are where the struggles are going to be, and they need to pick up points, especially against those direct competitors. So a lot of interesting storylines and games coming up, but I think every game right now is a very, very high pressure situation. And that speaks to what Gian was just saying. There's no time for Tata to tinker with the lineup. It's not there anymore. You had time to do it throughout the Leagues Cup, and you had these U22s get inserted into the lineup, and that was about it. You have no more time to do that. There are, 10 games now remaining in Major League Soccer. 5 or 6 of those will be at home. I think 5 actually will be at home. A couple of those are going to be tough away games, especially the ones in the Eastern Conference. So probably sold out Soldier Field. When you think about the Chicago game, 65, 70,000 people. You have to know what you're going to do going forward. And if teams are going to come out the way that Nashville did, Miami have not proven to any of us watching that they're able to break down a low block. That was my biggest concern coming out of the Leagues Cup final. That was my biggest concern coming out of the U.S. Open Cup semifinal. And that's my biggest concern going forward.
I think it'll be important, I think, for them to view the tape and to realize, because I don't know, because this has happened already quite a few times, and I'm not confident that Tata, I mean, he's a coach. How can he not recognize that, right? But at the same time, it's like the same kind of mistakes keep happening. And in my opinion, I mean, I feel like, okay, they like to build out of the back, small passes, combo plays, and that sort of thing. But there's some teams I feel like require a faster paced game. Get the ball out to the wing as fast as you can. They're not giving you anything through the middle. Like I wish that Tata just would recognize what these teams are doing to them and just kind of tinker with the play with the play style within the game and tell them, hey, I need you to push the pace. I think that's what's lacking, is understanding. Yeah, we like that slow paced approach, but depending on certain teams, and we got to take what they're giving us or what they're not giving us. And sometimes we just got to push the pace and be quicker. And I think that this is kind of the game where, when the team is so compact and is playing that low block, I think you can't give them that much time. You just got to be a lot faster on the ball. And that's something that we lacked. And then the personnel as well. I think that was really important is the personnel moving forward.
See, pushing the tempo is definitely important. And I think that when Messi's on the ball in the middle of the pitch, he gives you that. But when a team shuts you down, there is exactly what you're talking about, Gian. You have to be able to adjust. They didn't use DeAndre Yedlin enough. They were really only using Jordi Alba going forward. DeAndre Yedlin,
he was open the whole time on the right.
He was open the entire match. He was open almost the entire match. There were times where they found him going forward and he got close to the byline and put in some dangerous balls. But again, it was a real struggle for them to connect on crosses. Honestly, for when Campana's on the field, it's tough for them to do it at all. And that's what we saw tonight. So, yeah, they are stubborn in their ways, and rightfully so. They've got the talent and the quality to play a certain style of football, and that's completely understandable. But you can't really take any of these MLS matches for granted going forward. I understand what Tata was doing throughout the Leagues Cup. It's a tournament, and I think he's proven to be a really good tournament manager. But through league play, as Alejandro was saying, when you look at a draw like this, it feels like 2 points lost, and without a win, you again go into LAFC having to now win that game because you don't know what's going to happen with the Sporting Kansas City game. You don't know what's going to happen with the Atlanta United game right after that. And then by that point, you've only got 7 MLS matches remaining. And who knows how many points they'll be out of the playoffs by then. And so I think that is where a lot of concerns lie. After the Red Bulls game, I was almost extremely confident that this team could get it done because of the way that they played without Messi on the pitch. I was comfortable. They went up 1-0, and they really just had my respect for playing as a unit, I think. And that is something that I think lacked a little bit tonight. Red Bulls were a high-pressing team. They didn't shy from their ways, and Miami have proven now they can win an open match. You saw it in the 4-0 wins. You saw it against Atlanta United early in Leagues Cup. You saw it against Charlotte FC. You saw them score 4 goals against FC Dallas in a completely open game, but they also gave up 4 goals on the other end. And you look at the Red Bulls game that got completely open because of the high pressures, and that little build out from the back ended up working. There were times where there was a little bit of concern, but
Yeah.
for the most part, they got it done. There are a lot of different styles and a lot of different teams in MLS. LAFC are going to come with a ton of quality. It's going to be a different kind of quality than what Nashville possess, but it's still one that they have to be worried about. And the personnel, I think, is the most important thing to get right, because if they want to play a certain style, that's fine, but the personnel has to be right. Somebody like Benha needs to be on the pitch, in my opinion. Someone like Campana needs to be on the pitch, in my opinion. Someone like Facundo Farias to push the tempo needs to be on the pitch. I think that is one key player, Gian, that would do what you say in pushing the tempo, having a faster paced game is Facundo Farias. He was so eager to get on the ball tonight when he got subbed on. So eager, trying to find passes, playing through the middle, getting out to the wing, taking shots from outside the box, just trying to force something in this one. And that's what this team really needs right now alongside Lionel Messi, because nobody else showed that tonight besides Facundo when he came on.
Yeah, agreed. I think that Facundo Farias has done a great job. He didn't get too many opportunities this game, but really who did? But it's just the effort. And I think that as well as Taylor has connected with Messi and with Alba, one of the things that these teams have studied is that, again, that Alba, Taylor, Messi connection on the left-hand side. And that's what they shut down this game, is they were focused on that left wing. So that's why you got to try to bring in new personnel and bring in Farias, someone that right now isn't studied as well because he just joined the team, but he's basically Farias with more top level. And I think that Farias is someone that not only can play on the left wing, but I think that you can let him, and at least that kind of did in the second half, is it gave him a bit more freedom. He wasn't only on the left wing; he was sometimes rotating over into more of the middle side of the field, and Tata realizes that I think Farias gives him that extra dimension of not just being on the left wing, but rather playing again more in the middle, and I think Farias also gives you a bit more of attack and a bit more of agility than Taylor. The only issue is that, again, Taylor just has more playing time with Messi. Maybe not that much more, but he does have, I guess, more of an association with him than Farias, but that's going to come with time. I think the more playing time that Farias gets, the more that he will get, and that he will be in tune with Messi. I do want to say, how do you guys feel about our defense? I think our defense has, in my opinion, improving a little bit. We've been known as a team that doesn't have the best defense, but Aviles has come in. Kamal Miller is insane. I don't know what, I mean, I don't know if a spider bit him and he became Spider-Man. I don't know, but he is like these slide tackles and jumping all over the place. And all of a sudden he became a forward in this one play where he was just like, I don't know. Kamal has been doing nice over the last few matches, so I'm happy for him. We missed Chris. Christoph is also someone that has been pivotal for us over the last couple of matches as well. So I feel like our defense has been improving.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good shutout. I think that it was a good shutout. Drake wasn't tested as much as he was in past performances, which is obviously a good sign. It did get a little bit open towards the end, but you saw a lot of amazing recoveries, and I think that that's why you see Sid calling Kamal Miller Kamal Maldini for his recoveries and insane challenges that he made inside the box.
Kamal Maldini.
I do Kamal Maldini. Look, the defense played well. I think that they did their part in this one. I think that they provided, well, first of all, they're playing an extremely high line for all 90 minutes, which is hard to do when you think about the recoveries and everything like that. So kudos to them. Kristoff, and at least maybe later on in the game, that presence definitely was missed because you saw a lot of open space. Jacob Schaffelberg, I thought he had the legs to beat Aviles and Miller, and he did, but then you saw DeAndre Yedlin get back at times as well. So there was a lot of good to say, especially about Kamal Miller, of course. And one thing that I do say about center backs too, and I want to talk about Tomas Aviles here, is that the less said about center backs, the better. That's a saying that is known in football, and I think when you look at the Tomas Aviles performance tonight, didn't really notice him, not for any good reason, not for any bad reason, but that means he's doing his job. That means he's doing his job almost perfectly, and that's exactly what he wanted to see. It was the first time we saw Aviles in a back four So that's
Mhm.
also a compelling sign. There were times where when Miami were in possession, you saw Abuelas and Kamal Miller kind of spread out and let Arroyo and Busquets kind of take that space near the half circle and then play as wide as they could or through the middle if they could. So a lot of things improved there, absolutely. And a clean sheet at home is always really good. You just wish they would have capitalized on the other end.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, unfortunately, we weren't clicking on both ends of the field, and I think that this easily could have ended up in a loss. So whereas I am disappointed that we didn't get the win. Man, we had a few Nashville had a few opportunities at the end where they could have capitalized. Calendar, I will say, it came up huge again and again. He just
As he does.
continues to save us, and I think that rightfully so. He was called up to the U.S. men's national team, so that's amazing. And you just saw again today. If you were wondering why is he there, you saw today why he is. He just continues to save us on numerous occasions throughout the Leagues Cup and now through the first couple of matches in MLS League play. So I think that this is a team that's still learning to play with each other. I know that we feel like they've been playing together since Messi's arrival for like a whole year or something, but in reality, all these Leagues Cup matches, the U.S. Open Cup
It's been
semifinal,
6 weeks. It's been 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a very young team, and the fact that they found so much success in such a short period of time is something amazing. So I know that we can get frustrated at times. And you think, okay, we have Messi on the team. We shouldn't be losing a single match. We should be blowing everybody out 5-0. But that's not the case. Messi is number one, he's a different type of player. He's not the same player from 10, 15 years ago. He's a different type of player, still the best player in the world, or arguably the best player in the world. But even again, when he was playing in Europe, we weren't always expecting him to, I think, make every team that he plays on win 4-5-0. There were times where the teams had bad games. And whereas we've had some bad games, again, this is 6 weeks into what is this new era with Messi. So I would say we just have to have some patience, and we can rightfully call out things that we see wrong with the team, because that's part of the growing process. The team is going to mess up. The team is going to find their identity, and that's just part of the process. But I mean, we've already reached our goal, right? We won the Leagues Cup. We're in the CONCACAF champions. We're about to go to a final for the U.S. Open Cup, and we have a possibility to make it to hopefully the playoffs, which would be the cherry on top. But at the end of the day, it's a new team, and I'm happy with what I'm seeing, because I think that despite games like the ones that we saw today where maybe they didn't reach our full expectations, we still see a team that is fighting and doesn't give up, because this is a team that's exhausted. They're exhausted. Like you can tell they've been through so much, and Busi and Alba and Messi, they're in their 30s, mid 30s, almost, and they're still showing up to play. Because if Messi told Tata, hey, I can't play, Tata would respect that. He said that already. So I'm happy, I guess, with the path that we're on. But regardless of this, if this was kind of disappointing, I'm very optimistic. I think our chances are still very much alive to reach the playoffs.
Yeah, chances are definitely still alive. And you mentioned the Leagues Cup there, and I'm going to get to that in just a second after we have one more quick little ad break from Mosaics, and we'll get into the Leagues Cup trophy celebration that they had pregame.
Are you ready to transform your space into a masterpiece? Introducing Mosaics, your destination for stones and more. Mosaics is a family-owned business serving the community for over 20 years. With the best quality porcelain, ceramic tiles, and high-end mosaics featuring unique modern designs, Mosaics has everything you need. Dedicated customer service, wholesale distributors, and a passion for excellence. Make sure you visit mosaics.com today to turn your vision into a reality.
So as you can see here, pictured is the Inter Miami team, the 2023 Leagues Cup champions. That was pregame. Jorge Mas and co. A little take on Messi and co there. Jorge Mas and co was out with the squad.
Infantino was there. Gianni Infantino.
He was there. They were out with the Leagues Cup trophy. Jorge Mas with a nice little motivational speech, getting not only celebrating the fact that they won Leagues Cup a couple weeks ago, or a couple days, I think 11 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, but also getting this crowd extremely hyped for the U.S. Open Cup final. He said that is the next goal. It's the next trophy they want to bring home, and the fans were loving it. La Familia, as always, was great tonight. And, it was a special moment for this club, 4 years, and to do it in front of your expansion rivals and also the team that you beat in the final to bring out that trophy was something that, will stick with these fans for quite some time. And obviously you don't want the performance and the result to overshadow that. Celebrating a trophy is one thing in and of itself and nothing else really compares. So we did have that tonight from Jorge Mas. David Beckham was not in attendance. A little disappointed. I wonder if he's doing something for a photo shoot or modeling. I don't know what he's doing.
I think he's with Modric on the beach.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's in Croatia with Modric or something.
He's recruiting.
Or
in
Madrid. Recruiting. I don't know where they are. Yeah.
on a little recruiting trip. Okay. Well, good for him. Guys, I'm going to head out of here. I've got to get going. I got to leave the press box before they kick me out. But for everybody watching, again, thanks for tuning into Messi & Co. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the like button, and make sure you turn on the notifications. Follow Messi & Co. on all your podcast platforms and on Twitter at Messi & Co. And for the podcast platforms, Spotify, Google, Apple, just type in the word Messi. You'll find Messi & Co. You can see it in the top right corner what the logo looks like, and download the episodes, rate the show, and get all of our content in English and in Spanish. We also put in these post-game shows. So if you miss it on YouTube, you can get the feed there and listen to this back whenever you guys would like. For Gian, for Alejandro, myself, and everybody at Messi & Co. and 5 Reasons Sports, thanks for tuning into this post-game show. Inter Miami taking on Nashville to a 0-0 draw. We will see you guys next time.